lessons from life and business, as I mentioned, what sales is and what sales is not. So what are we going to talk about today? I'll talk about only three things: what sales is and what it is not. Okay. Second is numbers, pressure, and you, because I'm not sure how many of you have felt this as part of your career, or how many people have scared you saying, "Arey, ye to bahut high pressure, high stress job hota hai." So I thought it is very important to address that and talk heart to heart about what numbers and pressures mean for you. And the last thing is, success mantras for every sales role. There are, broadly speaking, three kind of roles that you would have in sales, and what can you do in each one of them to succeed. And I've very closely seen each of these things because I have myself grown through those roles. I've hired people in those roles. I have succeeded with some people. I've failed with some people. So there's a lot of experience in that area. So we'll start with what we think sales is and what it really is. So when we talk about sales, we always think it's about selling a product or service, whether we are trying to sell to a B2B customer or a B2C customer. As a salesperson, we think it's our job. We always get excited and we really try to push our product. सर ये खरीद लो, आपको इससे अच्छा प्रोडक्ट कहीं मिलेगा नहीं, या हमारी कंपनी का भी बहुत अच्छा वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन है, और दिस द बेस्ट पॉसिबल प्राइस, और इफ यू आर सेलिंग अ फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट, the best possible return, or if it's a IT project that you are selling, then you can say that our coders or our programming team is going to solve all your problems. But at the end of the day, what sales is solving a customer's problem. Please remember, the customer is not here to give you business. That's our job. That's what we want to do. The customer is sitting across the table with us because he has a problem that he wants to solve. Whether it is, it could be something as simple as you want to go from point A to point B and you are looking for an option, whether it could be taxi, Uber, Ola, or anything else, you're trying to solve a problem. Or if you are going to, buy a product, if you are going to buy a car, you're trying to solve a problem. And that problem could be just commuting, or you want to have a car which can take your family out over the weekends, or you might have something for status symbol or your aspiration. For a salesperson, he's probably trying to sell you his Maruti car or Hyundai car or Renault car, but it doesn't matter to you. What matters to you as an individual is, what's my need? What's my problem? So the first thing that you need to remember is, yes, you sell product and service, but it's not all about that. First and foremost is, how is a product or service solving the customer's problem is what's more important. And I just came across this, and I was browsing through LinkedIn this morning, and I came across this, and I couldn't resist myself from sharing this. So this was posted by somebody on LinkedIn, and it was very apt. So marketer says that, know your customers' pain points and show how you can solve them. Here is a pub guy. He has very simply put, here is rain, here is beer. Where do you want to go? Do you want to get soaked in rain outside, or you want to go for beer? So it's a light-hearted example about how you can focus on your customer's problem. What's his need that you're solving? Yeah? The second thing is, and this is also classic mistake that we make as salespeople or even sales manager make, which is relentless persistence. So we often say कि यार अगर कस्टमर एक बार नहीं माना, मैं दूसरी बार जाऊंगा, तीसरी बार जाऊंगा, चौथी बार जाऊंगा, कोल्ड कॉल करूंगा, ऑफिस में जाऊंगा, घर पे चले जाऊंगा, which is all good from the perspective of never say die spirit and all that, but it doesn't really get you anywhere. It's also what I call MAFA syndrome. MAFA syndrome is mistaking actions for achievement. Just because you are taking an action, just because you are relentlessly going after a customer, it does not mean you are going to get something. It does not mean you are achieving something. It just makes us feel good as a human being कि अरे मैं कुछ कर रहा हूँ, मैं एक हफ्ते से, एक महीने से, एक साल से कस्टमर के पीछे पड़ रहा हूँ. But persistence and persuasion are two very different things. When you think about persuasion, your focus is always on, again, customer's problem. Why should this customer buy my product, or why should he buy my service? So please distinguish between persistence and persuasion. Persistence is good to have, but it's an action. It's not going to take you towards achievement. It's a persuasion to convince the customer about why they should buy your product or service is what matters the most. The third thing is selling against competition versus explaining how you are solving the problem. The funny thing is, when you are selling against competition, you end up talking more about competitors' product. अरे सर उसकी product में तो ये है, अरे सर उसकी service में तो you are not talking about your product. You don't even realize. And as a customer, if I am sitting in front of a salesperson who is spending a whole lot of time trying to talk about competition's product and probably trying to show me that these are the reasons why it is not a good fit for me, I would probably be curious कि ऐसा क्या है वो product में that this guy is really trying to talk it down. It doesn't often help unless there is a customer who specifically asks you a question saying, how does your product or service compare with A, B, or C? It does not help you much if you're going to continue to spend time on competition's product, because we are actually doing their advertisement. So focus on how are you solving the problem. What's the problem and how are you solving it? Next thing is focusing on price, delivery, or freebies. This is often a mistake that we all make. We start with a price and we always think that price is going to really win us the deal, but often that is not the case. And I'll actually share with you an example from real life that might probably help you understand why price is not always the case. More often than not, people assess the value, and especially for customers in India, it's value for money. While money or the price that they're paying is important, they always want to see whether I'm getting some additional value for that or not. Is it going to give me more benefit than the amount that I'm spending or not? If you are convincing them on the value, saying, sir, this is going to give you a value worth, let's say, ₹1 million a year, or maybe 50 lakhs a year, or 1 crore a year, then price is a secondary thing. Then even if you don't mention the price, the customer is smart enough to do that calculation in his mind, saying, oh, I'm getting more value from this than the price being charged. So try to take your discussion towards value than price. The next is over promise and under deliver. Many of us, including myself, we have been fed through this staple diet in our career that you under promise and over deliver. Don't do over promise and under promise and over deliver. But when we do that, customers are also smart. You do it once, you do it twice. Next time he knows that whatever you tell him, he will take it with a pinch of salt. कि भैया बोलता कुछ है, मेरे को मिलता हमेशा ज्यादा है, या बोलता कुछ है, करता कुछ है. At the end of the day, for all of us, our business comes from an individual. The organization might be, signing a purchase order, they will probably give us a check, but the decision is made by an individual or a team of individuals. It's very important for them to trust us. We don't often realize that through our conversations with customers over a period of time, we start establishing our brand. And there are only three types of brands in this area you will be able to establish. One is a guy who over promises and under deliver. तो कस्टमर उसको कभी सीरियसली लेगा नहीं कि ये पता नहीं इसका होगा क्या है, बोलता हमें बहुत कुछ है, इसलिए कंपनी में इसकी चलती भी है कि नहीं पता नहीं, he won't be able to deliver. Or somebody who under promises and over deliver. तो कस्टमर will always think यार ये हमेशा है मुझे बेवकूफी बनाता है, ये बोलेगा कुछ लेकिन आई एम श्योर ही हैज समथिंग इन हिज बैक पॉकेट, सो he'll try to squeeze something out of you. This is human behavior, instead of customer, if we are there, we will also think that this guy always has something in the back pocket. If he is offering me something in terms of values or features or price and all that, I'm sure he has something. Whereas if you always stick to your words, if you deliver what you promise, you start building your brand saying that this guy means business, this person means business, this woman is going to tell me exactly what it is, whether I like it or not, and she is going to deliver me what she has promised. So if you stick to this, it often works better than any of the other over promising or under promising strategy. The last one is, and this is quite interesting. I mean, some of you might recognize what you see on the left hand side, which is what we all have been taught in business schools: 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion. I'll tell you 4 P's of sales because nobody talks about 4 P's of sales. Yeah. So the 4 P's of sales are more around problem, people, persuasion, and then product. It does not mean that product is not important. अगर अपना product अच्छा नहीं है तो हमें कोई दरवाजे में घुसने नहीं देगा, वो तो बहुत straightforward बात है. Product is always there, but in the decision making process, the first and foremost thing is a problem. Whether it's a B2C customer or a B2B customer, Why is the customer engaging with me? Why is he even giving me time for a meeting? Because he has a problem. There's something that he wants to solve. Either somebody in his company is shouting saying, I need this material, either he has a RFQ, either he has something for his personal need, but the starting thing is problem. Then it's a person or people who are going to make decisions. And then persuasion, and then comes the product, because your product has to stand for itself. If the product is not good, I think any of these three P will not be useful. But your approach has to start probably from problem first, people, persuasion, and then product. So I'll share with you an example. I mean, something that will give you an idea about how these things work in real life. And this is an example from life, not from business. So like I mentioned, I've been living in Singapore for about 5 years. And as you can see from my hairstyle, so the hairstyle that you see is my choice. ऐसा नहीं है कि मेरे बाल नहीं है. This is what I choose. So what it means is every 2 weeks I have to trim my head. It's like a shaver with which I have to trim my head, and it's almost like shaving the head. And for that I go to a salon next door. So हमारे घर के पास ही there is a salon. So there is an auntie. Let's call her Auntie Swilly. So I'm a regular customer, because basically the moment my hair grows beyond 5 millimeter, I just go, and every 2 weeks I go because my hair growth is very good. And so once I started going to her, of course, I'm not a very high paying customer because I don't do all kind of fancy things like other customers do. मुझे खाली 2 हफ्ते में जाना है, बाल कटवाना है, वापस आना है. Every 2 weeks I do it predictably like a clockwork. And she being a pushy person or a salesperson, a very good entrepreneur, she's in her 60s or 70s. Huh? So then she started chatting me up over a period of time, saying, "ये शैम्पू क्यों नहीं ले लेते?" I'm sure all of you can relate to that. ये शैम्पू क्यों नहीं ले लेता? अच्छा रहेगा तुम्हारे लिए. ये क्यों नहीं लेता? मतलब बोला, देखो आंटी, ऐसा है, दिस इज माय रिक्वायरमेंट. मुझे शैम्पू, मैं हिमालय का शैम्पू यूज करता हूँ, मैं पतंजलि का तेल यूज करता हूँ. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज. मुझे खाली बाल कटवाने हैं, वो कर दो. But she being who she is, she said, अभी इसके साथ तो कुछ चलेगा नहीं. Then she started asking me, how about your wife? Where does she go? मैं बोला, अभी ये तो डिफिकल्ट हो गया. अभी मैं इसको कैसे समझाऊं कि मतलब माय वाइफ इज नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन कमिंग हियर. बट शी वाज परसिस्टेंट. शी वाज परसिस्टेंट. And so my wife also went there once, and both of us felt that she is very pushy, very clingy. But we had no other option because she was the closest, and this is like a chore for me. Every 2 weeks I have to go. Then I started getting fed up. It's another thing that my wife never went there, but I started getting fed up and I explored a little bit. So there is another saloon, and let's call that lady May. I mean, both of these were Chinese individuals, local Singaporean Chinese individuals. So May is a very, very good hairdresser. And as you can see, there is nothing much to do with my hair. But when I went there, she did it with as much of interest as she would do with a customer who pays $100. And for me, maybe the cost that I pay is maybe $20 for every haircut. But she would fuss over my hair as much as she would fuss over anybody else. She would take as much time. And I've never, ever in my life seen somebody taking so much of care about cutting this hair every 2 weeks, doing the same thing with so much of precision that there should not be any extra here and there, completely aligned, so on and so forth. I was very impressed. She was more expensive, but I was very impressed. And the best thing is she never pushed me. She didn't say कि ये कर लो वो कर लो. I started going there every 2 weeks. एक महीना हुआ, फिर उसने बोला, सर ये शैम्पू खरीद लो. मैंने बोला, देख बहन, I don't want this. This is my need. You might want to push this to me, but I'm not interested. She got the message. She never asked me again. I pay 40% more to go there every second week, but I go there. Similarly, my wife goes to another hairdresser who costs her a lot more than the auntie next door. The point to make is it's not because we want to spend more. It's plainly because our problem is I want a peace of my mind कि हर 2 हफ्ते मुझे अच्छे से करना है, and I want to really feel that somebody is paying attention to it और मुझे और कुछ कुछ चिपका नहीं रहा है. And my wife just doesn't like pushy salespeople. It's another thing that the hair salon that she goes to is 3 times more expensive. And the guy talks to her about everything under the world. And my wife ends up spending a lot more money, but a lot more money to do things that solves her problem, not to buy random shampoos. So this is just an example that I wanted to share. And I think most of you can probably relate to many such examples for your own sake. Instead of putting ourselves in a salesperson's shoes, when we put ourselves in a customer's shoes, we realize कि सामने वाले के ऊपर क्या बीतती है. So then, we start being more empathetic to our customers. So that's something about, what sales is and what sales is not. So these are some of the rules of thumbs. I wanted to talk about was the numbers, pressure, and you. I probably should have used the word us, huh? Because it's not you, it's me as well. And this is a very common characteristic of career in sales. And probably first we'll talk about why this is a high pressure career, quote unquote, because people call it high pressure. It does not have to be high pressure. And in the next few minutes, we'll talk about why it does not have to be high pressure. There are three reasons why it is crucial. And I think no organization exists without revenue. There is no exception, absolutely no exception. You look at government entities, private enterprises, fancy private equity firms or VC firms or NGOs, anything and everything, you need to have a source of income. If there is no revenue, there is no money, all of us can go home. What it means is this is a highly visible career. What we commit to deliver is what our managers commit to shareholders, is what our CEO commits to shareholders. It's the most visible function in any organization. There is no two ways about it. So that's the first reason. Second, it's a quantifiable, time bound, and achievement oriented goal. When the sales numbers don't happen, there is nowhere to hide. You can make up stories, but you can't make up numbers. You really just cannot hide. If my target for the year is a few crores, and if I'm short by a few lakhs, that's what it is. I'm still short. So this is quantifiable. There is, मतलब हम कहानियां सुना सकते हैं. हम ये बोल सकते हैं सर ऐसा हो गया इसलिए नहीं हुआ, मैडम ऐसा हो गया इसलिए नहीं हुआ, मेरा कस्टमर भाग गया, डिलीवरी में प्रॉब्लम हो गया, बट नंबर नहीं हुआ नहीं हुआ. तो उसका मतलब देयर इज नो टू वेज अबाउट इट. और नंबर हुआ, एक्सीड हुआ, यू गेट वेरी गुड बोनस, दैट्स आल्सो इक्वली ट्रू. And the last thing is, this is very closely linked with our sense of self-worth, or in simple terms, with our own ego. ये human behavior की बात है. This is a career where you are evaluated every month, every quarter, even for every deal. और कोई आपको इवेल्यूएट नहीं करेगा तो आप खुद को इवेल्यूएट करोगे. अरे यार ये ऑर्डर चला गया हाथ से, अरे यार ये ऑर्डर मिल गया, अरे यार ये ऑर्डर में मुझे ज्यादा प्राइस मिल सकता था. We are in a continuous state of evaluation. So it also puts us in a situation where we continuously keep questioning our self-worth. कि मैं ठीक हूं कि नहीं हूं? Am I right for this or not? Am I doing right or not? Am I successful or not? So these are the three very simple reasons why we feel it's a high pressure job. And this holds true no matter where you go, no matter which organization you go to. So how do you deal with this? And again, इसमें मतलब बहुत दुनिया भर का मैं ज्ञान नहीं दूंगा. मतलब I can probably spend a whole lot of time on funnel management and all that, but I'm going to share with you what are the things that I've seen with people across the world and what works and what doesn't work. So first and foremost, take out the guesswork. Expectation and reality. When there is a huge gap between expectation and reality, that causes stress or pressure. So please take out the guesswork. Manage expectations and be predictable. This is what you have to do for yourself, your manager, your manager's manager. And this will happen through your pipeline management. But this is where it it sort of really plays on human psychology, where you tell very clearly, sir, if my target for this year is 4 crores, I don't think first quarter I will hit 1 crore, but third quarter looks very good. And this you can't say just like this, women mean so no. This you have to say on the basis of pipeline, based on your assessment, based on your customers. But set the expectations so that even your manager knows that, hey, Urvil is going to be able to deliver only 70 lakhs this quarter. I need to make sure 30 lakhs comes from somebody else. And it is fine. It is part of life. Not every customer is going to spend 1 crore a quarter because we want that business. Customers also go through the cycle. So first and foremost, do that and do it for yourself. Before you talk to your manager, before you talk to anybody else, do your own assessment. Okay, bhai, agle saal, April to March, how does my pipeline look like? Let me take out the guesswork. And I'll in a bit, we'll talk about the pipeline. Yeah. Second, build a network for vent out and pick brains. This should be the people with whom you can be vulnerable. You can really say, oh, यार ये मैं इतने टाइम से कर रही हूँ, बट आई एम नॉट एबल टू ओवरकम दिस चैलेंज, या ये क्लाइंट इधर तक आ गया है, हाउ डू आई टेक इट फॉरवर्ड फ्रॉम हियर? और समटाइम्स इफ यू हैव लॉस्ट द डील, यू माइट जस्ट वांट टू से यार मैं फ्रस्ट्रेट हो गया हूँ ये करते करते. You need to have that. Don't keep everything bottled up within you. That is one thing. You have that vent out, pick brains kind of network. Second, you build an emotional support network. And I'll share an example here. Huh? My wife, so every time end of the month, my wife knew she has to stay away from me because I'm in a very bad mood. Regardless of how my team is doing, how am I doing, and she told me this once and I realized यार ये तो ठीक नहीं है, मतलब then it is affecting everybody else. And then I told her, I sat with her and I told her that look, this is how it works. There are times when I get really tense, there are times when things are out of my hands, and I just want you to know, I whether I can change or not, whether I can change situation or not, I just want you to know that this is what I go through. And then she was very supportive. Then, so even before COVID and all that, many times I used to have those sales calls from home when I was in India. So sometimes she used to overhear the calls and she used to say, "ये मेरे का number हुआ कि नहीं हुआ?" I'm like, "तुम मुझे मत पूछो अभी, मेरा बॉस मुझे पूछ रहा है." So, so long story short, she was there to support me. Then she used to say, "चलो हो जाएगा, don't worry." Yeah, you need that. We are all humans. We are all humans, right? I mean, please don't underestimate the power of these two things that I have mentioned. You know, the network to learn from people, network to, you have your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, even father, uncle, friend, whoever else. Somebody who can be there with you saying, अच्छा चलो नहीं हुआ कोई बात नहीं. It's not end of the world. It's fine. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of technicalities. As a salesperson, if you have to master one skill, it is to master your pipeline. And there are these next 2 points I'm going to just talk only about that. So at all the time, you need to keep asking this question to your pipeline, whether it is right, whether it is rich, and whether it is real. Okay. What I mean by that is right, as in, is it qualified prospect? Do I have people in my pipeline who are likely to buy things from me, who are interested in buying things from me? Or do I have prospects in my pipeline who are simply there because कोई पुराना cold calling का मेरे पास डेटा शीट है, या किसी ने मुझे कुछ नाम दे दिया, मुझे पता भी नहीं ये क्या है? एटलीस्ट पता होना चाहिए कि कौन है. Okay, at least you should have an idea. You should have spoken to this client, met this client at least once, either spoken to them over phone or met them. So is it right? Second is rich. This is simply mathematical. Rich as in based on your business, whether in B2C, B2B, you would know that my hit rate is maybe 20%, 50%, 30%, whatever. It might even change quarter by quarter. If you are in a financial services industry, maybe your hit rate in the Q4, which is January to March, will be very high because a lot of people want to do a lot of investments for taxation, blah, blah, blah. So plain and simple, is it rich enough or not? If my target for the year is 1 crore, if I need a pipeline of 5 crores, where am I? Do I have enough pipeline for the first quarter or not? And then I build the pipeline for next quarter, so on and so forth. So you would know your industry much better. Huh? How long does it take to convert the clients, so on and so forth? But is it rich or not? That's what you need to ask. The third thing is it real or not? And this is a little bit about our own psychology. Sometimes we are hopeful, which is very good. Actually, every salesperson is eternally optimistic. And simply because we have had a customer or we have been pursuing a project, even if it's hanging for 2 years or 2 months, we still hang on to it thinking, "Ye ho jayega, ho jayega." But not because we know that the customer is going to buy or we have any quantifiable data to prove that, simply because we think, we hope ये हो जाएगा, इसलिए हम बोल रहे हैं हो जाएगा, ये पाइपलाइन में पड़ा है. So these are the three questions you have to ask yourself all the time. Whenever you look at your pipeline, please evaluate for these three things. How to build the pipeline? These 5 stages are again very simple, and there is a whole lot of literature. I think in B schools or wherever you can probably get a lot of stuff on internet. But in very simple the terms, first and foremost, prospecting. Who are the people who are considering or will consider buying your products and services? It means that even if that person is not buying right now, if I go back to the example that I was giving for Sahas's question, even if there is a customer who is telling me right now that I have no intention of making an FD right now or buying a mutual fund, but I know that over a cup of tea or coffee, I get to know that he works with a company, he is likely to have his bonus in next quarter, or maybe his daughter is studying somewhere. Maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, he's going to buy something. So he's my prospect. Not for now, maybe 6 months later or 9 months later. So he's my prospect. Second is qualify. Okay, and I use this analogy very often that you must really start thinking like a desi banya. And I have seen this world over. Salespeople have the best sense of return on investment of their time. सेल्स वाला आदमी या लड़की ऐसी कोई भी चीज में टाइम बर्बाद नहीं करेगा जहां से उसको धंधा नहीं दिख रहा है. बहुत सिंपल. Was this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm paid to do. I'm here to build my business. If you have no business to give me, we can go and have a beer, but that's about it. I'm not going to spend my time on this. Please do this. After you have a prospect, please qualify whether this prospect is good for you or not. Somebody might have a whole lot of money. I mean, let's say a customer might have a whole lot of money, but if you know that he is not going to buy a product for whatever reasons, then it's okay. Maybe you just cultivate him or her to give you another referral, but don't waste your time and energy for her. So qualify, prospect, qualify. Third thing is influence. So after you have qualified the people, then you try to influence them. And influence, again, it depends upon product by product. If you're selling a car, then you might even have to influence an 8-year-old daughter of your buyer. Because daughter बोलेगी पापा पापा काले कलर की गाड़ी नहीं लेंगे, हो गया खेल खत्म. So you have to understand कि ये डिसीजन के लिए who are the people who are going to influence the decision maker. In B2B scenario, it could be very different. In B2B scenario, I mentioned some of the things below which become very critical, like power broker or decision maker. So you might be discussing with a procurement guy. Often we go and talk to procurement guy because he's the one who will issue PO, he's the one who is going to make the payment, he's the one who is going to do it. But who is going to decide that we have to buy product A versus product B? It's a user. It's the somebody on the shop floor. It's somebody who is going to use the program, let's say. So he's the influencer. He's really the decision maker. Many a times in B2B, specifications are very important. There are engineering divisions who will say that unless this product meets this criteria, we cannot buy. So you always have to, after you have qualified a prospect, make sure you influence depending upon the situation. Negotiate. And for negotiation, always have a strategy beforehand. Don't be under pressure on the negotiation table. ये हमारे साथ बहुत बार होता है, डेस्परेशन में हो जाता है, या अगर मंथ एंड है, क्वार्टर एंड है, ईयर एंड है, तो और भी खराब हो जाता है. बट हर एक डील के लिए नेगोशिएशन स्ट्रेटेजी क्लियर होनी चाहिए कि भाई ये डील आई कैन अफोर्ड टू लूज, ये डील आई कैन नॉट अफोर्ड टू लूज, और इन दिस डील आई कैन अफोर्ड टू गिव better discount because I will have more business from them later, और ये one off है, इसमें ज्यादा पैसे देने से कोई फायदा नहीं है, whatever. For each deal, you should have your negotiation strategy very clear. And in most of the cases for salespeople, to an extent, this is also decided by the authority that we have. Sometimes we don't even have the authority. Our manager has. फिर ये उसका headache है, हमारा headache नहीं. But in many cases, you will have a certain level of authority. So negotiate. Before you negotiate, you decide how you want to negotiate that. And the last one is win or walk away. And I always mention this, that it is not always win. The last stage of any deal is also walk away. You should be very clear कि बॉस ये नहीं परवड़ेगा मुझे प्राइस में, और ये कस्टमर मुझे पता है, he will negotiate, maybe the order is very good, but ये बाद में मुझे भी रुलाएगा, पूरी कंपनी को रुलाएगा, because he will have a lot of demands. There will be scope creep, blah 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 blah, whatever. So these are the steps that you need to keep in mind. So it links back to the first one, take out the guesswork. If you want to take out the guesswork, you have to do this: plan, execute, repeat, plan, execute, repeat. Your life should depend upon this. You have a simple spreadsheet, or if your organization uses CRM like Salesforce or whatever, but regardless of whether your manager asks you to do this or not, you have to do this. Yeah. Key broad roles that you would come across in sales career. So first and foremost is a salesperson. An individual who is typically a individual contributor, he has his individual target, and he or she has multiple accounts. So let's say मेरा टारगेट है 1 करोड़, मैं अकेला ही हूँ, मुझे बोला ये 10 अकाउंट है तुम्हारे, या फिर बोलेंगे कि भाई तुम्हारे 10 अकाउंट भी नहीं है, तुम्हारा टेरिटरी अंधेरी, अंधेरी में से तुम्हें इतना बिजनेस लाना है. So this is my responsibility as an individual. Another could be account manager, which happens in industries like wealth management or B2B, or even a lot of media industries also, where you are given very specific accounts. So let's say if there is a person, she is given specific account saying you have these 2 accounts. Take for an example an advertising agency who has an account manager focusing only on media channels, and then there is an account manager, she is told your account is Disney and NDTV. That's it. You live and die with it. This is very different from the first one. Please remember, because in the first one, you you really have a wide open space. And the second one is a highly specialized account manager who goes deep into an account because she has to live and die with those accounts. Your account target number doesn't change, your accounts don't change. You don't have the luxury of changing your account. So you really have to develop deep relationship into that. There is no territory restriction. I mean, typically in accounts like this, they typically say that regardless of how many offices they have, you can cover all of them, so on and so forth. But there is a restricted account. The last one is more of a manager who might not have direct target for himself or herself, but she might have a team of 10 people and she might have a total target of 20 crores, 30 crores, 50 crores, whatever. She manages a portfolio of people and accounts, and she manages territories as well as accounts. So these are, broadly speaking, 3 different roles. And we'll talk about what it takes to sort of succeed in each one of them, or rather what you should keep in mind. If you are in any of these roles, or if you aspire to be in any of these roles, what should you keep in mind? So the first role, first and foremost, you must build a portfolio of clients. And because I am passionate about personal finance, I'll probably take an example of investing in companies or stocks. So you must have a portfolio of clients that you know are going to do you good for long term and short term. Which of your clients will give you business in quarter 1, 2, 3, 4? Which will give you in next year or year after that? Or which person is not even a client, but he or she can open the doors to you for somebody else? Because please remember, you have to be a hunter all along. You have to keep looking for clients. Your territory remains fixed, or maybe your geography remains fixed, but there is no restriction on the number of clients that you have. You have restriction on target. I might have a target of 5 crores and I'm given a territory. It's up to me to find more and more customers. So I have to always be on hunting mindset. I have to keep looking for hunting. And this also helps you to evaluate whether you are good for these roles or not. It's very important to enjoy what you do. If you don't like to be in a hunting mode always, maybe you should not be in a role like this. Always have a plan B. What I mean by that is a situation like this is if you have a portfolio of 40, 50 clients, and if you are banking on 10 clients to give you business in quarter 1, you have to have a plan B that out of 10, maybe 2 won't be able to complete the deal with you. Then what's your plan B? Is somebody else going to give you business? Can you bring something from your pipeline for Q2 to Q1 because you think that the customer is anyway going to buy? You have a good relationship with them. You can go and have a conversation with customer. Sir, आप 1st April के बोले 31st March को order दे दो. Then you know I can meet my target, so on and so forth. Always have a plan B. Any salesperson would know this. You always should have a plan B. Seek referrals from existing clients. I mentioned this earlier also, because not every person that you meet is going to give you business, but somebody else that they know could give you business. Follow your clients' careers. This is also very important, because if you know that your client is a head of procurement, head of engineering, head of a division in this company right now, he's not going to be there forever. He will move in his career just like you would move. If you maintain the relationship regardless of the careers, you would actually have more and more clients. This is very important for a person who has a portfolio of clients, because if you have me as a client, today I'm in Schneider Electric, tomorrow I might go to Siemens or Rockwell or ABB, I might be able to give you business from wherever I go. So please follow your clients through LinkedIn or whatever, and make sure you genuinely build relationship, congratulate them saying, अरे सर ये तो बहुत अच्छा career move है, is very good for you, you are changing the cities, is it okay, is your family settling down, or not? Take interest in your clients. The second role, account manager, this is a little bit different. Like I mentioned, this is a role where a person has to live and die with her clients. Yeah. Because you have restricted clients, one or two clients where you have to really go deep and mine them. Not that here you won't be able to hunt. You still can hunt because right now we are working in, let's say, clients in Mumbai office, but they might also have an office in Delhi or Bangalore or Chennai, or people move across offices, people move across different functions. You still have to do that, but your field is limited to those 2 or 3 clients. The advantage is you can be a subject matter expert because you are focusing on those clients. You can actually be a subject matter expert saying that, sir, for your issues, I'm familiar with these issues because this is what I've been doing for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I've been an account manager in this industry for a long, long time. And we will always see that account manager role in any industry is highly specialized. People are account manager for, let's say, BFSI clients, media clients, steel clients, transportation clients. They specialize in those segments. So they become subject matter experts. Keep your networking antenna on because as an account manager, you will end up attending quite a few conferences and workshops for those industry. So keep your networking antenna on. That is where you will get to develop your subject matter expertise. It is very important for your clients to understand that you can speak and understand the language, their industry language. Yeah. The last part is a little bit different because it is more of a sales manager and people who are sales manager or who aspire to be sales managers. Few things you have to keep in mind is you are a portfolio manager. You might not have a direct responsibility, but you need to have a portfolio of clients and people. When I say people, your team members. You need to assess your people for the skills and decide whether this person needs to be a salesperson or an account manager, whether this person is a good hunter or a good farmer, or whether this person can handle pressure or she needs different kind of clients, so on and so forth. Based on that, you need to assign accounts and roles. Without that, your team will fail, you will fail. And the last thing is you also need to develop relationship which goes beyond business, because that is when you can really help your sales team. Your sales team is doing a lot of transactional discussion with your customers कि सर ये चीज की रिक्वायरमेंट है कि नहीं मैम, ये प्रोजेक्ट कब आएगा, विच इज वेरी ट्रांजेक्शनल. वो मतलब धंधे की बात हो जाती है. बट व्हेन यू engage with their senior people over lunch, dinner, or any networking event, just get to know them in individual capacity. It really helps in time of closing the deal, or it really helps in time of crisis. When your company is not able to fulfill some promises, you can pick up the phone and talk to your customer and leverage your personal relationship. So these are some of the examples that I wanted to share. So the last one, if you have to remember just 3 things, what it is: solve the problem, don't try to sell products. Your job is the most crucial in any organization. It's a role that you should be very proud of and you must be proud of. And the last is always build a portfolio, whether you are in an individual role or a people manager role, always build a portfolio because that will hold you in a good state. The first thing you have to assess is who are the influencers. Okay. End user have a specification for panel builder saying you can use only this, or is it open? They might say you can use Siemens, you can use ABB, you can use Schneider Electric. So once you know that in specification Siemens name is there, you should check with panel builders and find out what is their openness. Okay. If they're open to use your product, it is fine. If not, you should influence the end user. That would be my suggestion. Approach that I recommend and I take myself is understand the baseline first. So if my target for this year is 2 million, I understand what was it last year, or even better, last couple of years. How much business do we do? And so you should not accept anything straight away. I mean, that is a rule of thumb for sure. You should always say that let me analyze and come back to you. And in terms of analysis, you look at the baseline for last 3 years and then analyze how much of that business will continue steady state, how much will go up, how much will go down, because some business will go up, go down. So you would know baseline to baseline kitna hoga. अगर last 3 साल का baseline average is, let's say, 1.5 million, you know whether it will remain 1.5 or it will become 1.2 or whatever. And then I think it is a very fair discussion to have, saying that based on my analysis, I see that our steady state business will give me 1.2. We plan to go after these new customers. It will probably give you another 500,000. I still see a gap of 300K. Do you have a suggestion about how we can go about it? Okay, instead of saying we can't reach there, you can tell them, let's sit together for 1 hour. Let's discuss how can we reach there. When you make the opposite person a part of decision making process, के साथ में बैठ के चलो नंबर जोड़ते हैं हम कहाँ तक पहुंचते हैं, then that person himself or herself will realize कि यार ये इतना नहीं पहुंचेगा, कुछ नहीं तो एटलीस्ट सामने वाले को ये याद रहेगा कि यार इसने बोला था कि ये नहीं होगा. It's a coincidence that one of the books that I have suggested is actually on this, the first one. And the very interesting thing is, this is not about business negotiation. This is by an ex-FBI agent who worked on hostage negotiation. The advantage of being an introvert is you have a lot of attention on listening to people, observing and analyzing. Observe and analyze, you can then start identifying triggers that for this person, prestige is important. तक 10% डिस्काउंट नहीं लेगा वो शांत नहीं होगा, और he is more worried about after sales service because it's his responsibility. Deal with each one of them one by one. And another thing to always remember is, meetings are more often than not to confirm the decisions which are taken outside the meeting room. So once you've identified those people, you need to work on them separately outside the meeting room over a period of time. If you know that somebody is going to support you because he needs after sales service or he needs good quality, then you work on them so that they can influence the decision making maker. Saying कि सर आप 10% डिस्काउंट बोलोगे आदमी भाग जाएगा. As a rule of thumb, if your total cycle from prospecting to closure, let's say if it is month, you should probably spend about equal time on prospecting. Typically in B2B sales, response rate to emails is much lower. I mean, so much so that I've even seen that things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a lot more effective, because when you connect, so LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a paid service only for salespersons. I would advise getting an in-person meeting somehow, maybe even 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, because email response rate is not very high in B2B. Second, you might also want to target different levels of people. So for a family-owned business, for a small business, maybe MD gets involved into a lot of these things. But for if your clients are corporations, then maybe the procurement guys. The question you have to ask is, whose KPI is this? Because जिसका KPI है उसको interest आएगा. Life बहुत simple है. So the MD might be responsible for the whole business, but he might delegate it to people down the line, and he may or may not show interest in that. So these are the two suggestions I can give you. But long story short, I think email response for B2B sales is not very good. It requires in-person meeting, or even better referral or connection through LinkedIn.